What's a special one, isn't it?
Yeah, okay.
You kick it off.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling the special council meeting to order. Are there any corrections or additions to the agenda at all, Mr. Shelton? There being none, okay, thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Members of council? Being none. First item then is a report from our legislative services, and it's with respect to the vacancy in Ward 5, and the recommendations are before you that we declare the council seat vacant and that we fill the vacancy by means of by-election. That's the staff recommendation, and that an election be held on October the 17th, and that the committee of the whole meeting be rescheduled to October the 18th. We do have the recommendations of report before us. Could I have a motion from member?
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hempin, seconded by Councillor Twinney. Speaking to the motion, Councillor Hempin? Councillor Twinney?
No, I guess just speaking to the motion is the fact that I believe that we should be holding an election for the seat for this position. It's only going to be there's going to be still 2 years left in the term when we when this by-election would come into play, and at this point I feel that it's the democratic process of the residents being able to elect an official for that position is the proper way to go. I believe strongly that, and I think that's it's just the way it should be. So I totally support the recommendations that have come forth before us.
Okay, thank you. Regional Councillor.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I wanted to make a couple of comments as well. I think this is an important moment, certainly a unique moment. This isn't something that happens often. In fact, I don't know if staff were able to tell us when the last time Newmarket had a by-election, but yeah, Bob's able to, of course. Yeah, I would like to know, yeah.
When the mayor of the day became the
Chair
of the region.
That would be my
election.
So that would be 80?
78, 79 in that area.
Thank you. So, this is something that happens, certainly here has happened very, very rarely. And we do have a reserve account for elections that we contribute to, I believe, annually. There's a cost involved, and it's not a small cost, but the democratic process, as we know, costs money to run, and elections cost money to run. And I think that if you look at the precedent, and I did, I'm sure as other people have done, I did some bouncing around on the internet and talking to colleagues, and certainly appointments are somewhat common, if not quite common, with less than a year to go in a term. But they're much, much less common when more than a year exists, and certainly when more than half a term remains. You see them very, very rarely. And I believe for good reason. I mean, the public wants to elect their representative. They want to know that they've had the chance to vet that person personally and cast a ballot on their behalf. I think if you look at Ward 5, there's some important issues that it faces, and obviously the clock tower is one of those. And I think that to ensure that the representative of the people of that ward, when that decision is made, is someone who was elected and chosen by the people, I think is important. And so I think that, well, there is a cost. I think it's something we really need to go forward with in this manner. And I think it'll give the ward a renewed opportunity to engage in a conversation about several important topics in the downtown and in Quaker Hill, et cetera. And I think it'll be a healthy and a robust conversation, I'm sure. And I think it gives many people an opportunity who are interested in running to look at that option and to consider it, and then to choose to move forward or not. So I support this direction fully. I do have a question for staff. These recommendations cover everything. We don't need to speak to ranked ballots. If we move these recommendations, then ranked ballots do not occur. Is that correct?
Madam Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, to the regional councillor, yes, that is correct.
Okay, and I'd like to briefly just speak to that as well. It was mentioned on this.
I thought ranked ballots is coming forward in August.
Yes.
The report on ranked ballots, okay.
But it is referred to
Yes.
in
No,
here
no,
as an
no, no,
option,
no,
and I think just letting everybody know that we've given this consideration, et cetera, and so.
Go ahead.
I do think it's worth mentioning that the ranked ballots were put, they're here as a potential option, but it's a very complicated option, as you can read in the report, with the full regulations not out from the province yet, making the timing very difficult to consider that option at this time. As well, staff have looked further into this and have discovered that getting ranked ballots even supplied from the typical suppliers would be very difficult, or, well, would be essentially impossible on this timeline. And so for various reasons, and the second one probably being as much as any, it's something we can't explore at this time, but I do look forward to having that conversation, and I know a report's coming forth, and we can look at that more fully for the full general election. I think those are my comments. I'm looking forward to the process. I'll add that I am in a unique position on council, I believe, because I will not only be following this along as a member of council who's intrigued to see who will be our next colleague at the table, but I'll also be voting in the election. And so I'll be following it closely and look forward to taking part in the process. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Given that we're in the middle of summer, there is one thing that I don't overlook in the agenda, and that is a request for deputation. So before I call the question, I'll see if there are any deputations. Is there anyone who wishes to make a deputation with respect to the items that are on the agenda today? Okay. All right, any further comments? I agree with the recommendations myself. I know that there is a cost to the municipality. The report is very thorough, but it brings us back to the reality that people who cast their vote around this table are people that need to have a mandate from their constituents. And for that reason, I think it's something that we should go forward. There are a number of significant issues coming forward in the ward that need consideration, but additionally, the position that occupies the ward councillor's chair for Ward number 5 also has a number of very significant local community activities, and I think it's important to make sure that the person who sits on the BIA, the person who sits on the NDDC, has a mandate from the community and has a good understanding of the community. So I think that's important. The one additional thing that I would like to say is that if anyone is considering running for council, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario has a website, and they do have a webinar that talks about the things that you should consider if you're thinking about running for a position on council. And I would encourage anyone who's giving some thought to this to seek out the information that's available to them there. Any further comments? Okay, I think it's time to call the question then. All those in favor of the recommendations? We'll raise our hands as well. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item is a request from staff with respect to some recommendations on the following committee vacancies. There are two committees that I think would fall into the statutory area. One is by agreement with the town of Aurora, which requires that at least 2 members of our Central York Fire Services be available to represent quorum. The other one is a statutory committee for the library board. So I'd like to be able to deal with those if possible, and I believe that the positions with respect to the Downtown Development Committee, we should hold that vacancy until we have a new councillor in place, as well as the Economic Development Advisory Committee, NEAC, Environmental Advisory Committee, Library Board, and the CFYS, or the Central York Fire Services. I'd like to receive some recommendations from members of council. So let's start with Central York Fire Services. Do I have a recommendation or a motion that we appoint someone?
Do you want me to make it? I can go ahead.
Sure.
All right, I'll move a motion to appoint Councilor Pazance to that position.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Broom-Plumley, okay. Any discussions? You want to say anything, Councillor Pazance? Yeah.
You want to do it?
No, I would gladly accept the appointment to this committee. It was one of the ones originally that I was very interested in participating in. I found that my participation in the audit committee, the accessibility committee, and the appointment committee has been very fulfilling. It's also been a great opportunity to be directly involved with a number of the issues of particular procedural concern to the town, and through that I've learned a lot. I can't speak highly enough of the accessibility committee and the citizen members on that committee who are just so insightful and so committed and caring to ensuring that the town is doing all that it can to make it accessible to all residents, including those with whatever physical or mental challenges need to be accommodated, and so that too has been a great learning for me. And so I think I'm quite ready to now look at this next committee and become better informed on fire services. It's certainly one of our largest budget items for the town, fire services, and I know that there's a number of issues related to contracts and the master plan, which we approved as a council not that long ago. So I'm very much looking forward to it, and I thank my colleagues for the nomination.
I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. I'll seek some advice from the members of the library board. I know that Councillor Broom-Plumley and Councillor Vague are members there. Councillor Kerwin has indicated an interest in joining the library board, and I'm in council's hands in terms of a recommendation, one of which might be that we could wait until the final election is there. So I'm in council's hands.
Somebody else also showed interest.
Yep, there's
I think you should mention
Councillor
that, so
Twinney
everyone
as well,
knows.
yes, yep. Yes, sorry. Okay, Councillor Vague?
Thank you very much. I know we do need to fill that vacancy on the Newmarket Public Library Board, but I also know that we are not having any meetings immediately coming up until, I believe, September. Is that correct? September. So we're not in too much of a hurry for that. And I know we do have a meeting coming up in August, and Councillor Kerwin, who I've sat on the library board with before, and it was a wonderful experience, is actually not here. So I'm sure he has expressed his interest, and I know he has. But I don't feel any pressure to fill that right now. If it's something that we can deal with in perhaps August, and then even in August we may decide to wait until October. But I'm perfectly fine with that. And I'll turn it over to Councillor Broom-Plumley for her comments.
I agree with Councillor Kerwin not being present. We'd certainly like to speak to both Councillor Kerwin and Councillor Twinney with regards to some of the things that are coming up with the library board, and we've got lots of time to do that, so perhaps we can wait until Councillor Kerwin is returned and bring this back in August for our next meeting and make a decision then.
Okay.
And actually, I didn't mention Councillor Kerwin, but
And where Councillor Twinney, and Councillor Twinney would certainly welcome
She's-
on.
She's next in the queue.
Next in the queue. No, I felt that. I spoke with Councillor Kerwin, but I was really referring to the both of you, so I just wanted to make that clear.
Councillor Twinney?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good move. We haven't got any meetings coming up, so that's fine with me. And perhaps we can chat further. You can chat with both of us about some of the issues that are coming up. But have not sat on the library board before, but with my experience of knowing being on Central York Fire Services, being on a committee that has a large budget and has complex issues and things of that nature, I feel that my experience being actually my second term now on fire services would certainly bring some foresight for the library board as well. So.
Great. Either one would be a great addition for the board. I think we're all agreed there. Okay, so I'll leave that. So the Environmental Advisory Committee?
Do you want your motion to defer it to the August
Yeah.
meeting?
Why don't we take a motion to defer that to the August meeting then? Councillor Vague, Councillor Broom-Plumley? All those in favor? That is carried as well. So that, the remaining items then would be the NDDC, I think the BIA appointment, the NEAC, although BIA mandate states that it's the Ward 5 counselor. So that those items can be dealt with in the August.
And DDC also is Ward 5 council.
Yep, NDDC is right. Okay. I think we've disposed of most of the recommendations there. Item number 3 is correspondence from Councillor Kerwin indicating he supports the Ward 5 vacancy. Motion to receive would be appropriate. Councillor Twinney, Councillor Vague. All those in favor? That deals with all of our agenda items. The only items remaining is the bylaws. So there are 2 bylaws listed, 2016-37 and 2016-38. Madam Clerk, if you would advise the particulars.
Bylaw 2016-37 is a bylaw to declare the office of Councillor Ward 5 to be vacant on and the Council of the Town of Newmarket. And 2016-38 is a bylaw to require a by-election in Ward 5.
Does anybody wish to have these bylaws dealt with separately? Can I have a mover and a seconder for the bylaws? Councillor Bazans, Councillor Broom-Plumley. All those in favor? Final item is a confirmatory bylaw.
One quick question.
Yep.
I should have asked earlier, but the dates that are laid out in this document, as of passing these recommendations, those dates are now fixed? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Broom-Plumley, Councillor Hempin. All those in favor? That is carried, and a motion to adjourn. Councillor Bazance, Councillor Twinney. All those in favor? That is carried.